Hello, lovely listeners. Are you ready to take your English skills to the next level? Well, you've come to the right place. Whether you're learning on the go or just chilling, our podcast is your ultimate companion to boost those speaking and listening skills.
That's right. Welcome back to the English Leap podcast. I'm Daniel, and today we're going to help you introduce yourself like a boss. No more awkward moments or nervous stumbles. Today is all about mastering self-introductions.
And I'm Jennifer. We've all been there, right? That moment when you're asked to introduce yourself at a new job, in a class, or even at a social event, and suddenly your mind goes blank. Don't worry, you're not alone. Today we'll help you get past that.
Exactly. We're breaking it down step by step to make sure your next self-introduction is smooth and confident. But before we dive in, don't forget to grab our free PDF guide. It's got all the tips and vocabulary you need to make your intro flawless. Link is in the description below.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. What exactly is a self-introduction? Well, it's simple. Imagine meeting someone for the first time. You want them to know who you are, right? That's where a self-introduction comes in.
Yep, it's like giving someone a quick preview of your life, a trailer. Whether you're meeting a new friend, starting a new job, or even joining an online group, how you introduce yourself really sets the tone.
Exactly. Imagine meeting someone, and they just stand there in silence. Awkward, right? A self-introduction breaks the ice, and it's your first chance to show people a bit of who you are. You're basically the star of your own movie.
And who doesn't want a star in their own movie? So Jennifer, why is a self-introduction so important in the first place?
Well, it's all about first impressions, Daniel. You know the saying, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. It's so true. How you introduce yourself can make you seem confident, friendly, and approachable, or if you're unprepared, nervous, or uninterested.
Exactly. And let's be real. We all want to come across as confident and likable, right? Plus, being prepared with a solid self-introduction reduces anxiety. If you know what you're going to say, you're less likely to stumble over your words.
Absolutely. It's like having a GPS when you're driving in a new city. Without it, you're lost. But with it, you know exactly where you're going. Preparation is key.
Perfect analogy, Jennifer. Being prepared not only helps you introduce yourself effectively, but also boosts your confidence in any setting, whether it's social, professional, or casual.
And let's not forget, a memorable self-introduction can leave a lasting impression. People are more likely to remember you if you introduce yourself clearly and confidently. It's like leaving your mark.
Totally agree. Whether you're meeting new classmates, going for a job interview, or mingling at a networking event, nailing your self-introduction opens the door to more opportunities and meaningful connections.
So, in a nutshell, a good self-introduction is crucial. It helps you make a positive first impression, reduces anxiety, boosts confidence, and makes you memorable.
Well said, Jennifer. Now that we've laid the groundwork, let's move on to the fun part. How to create the perfect self-introduction. We're going to break it down step by step.
Awesome. Let's dive into the key components of a great self-introduction.
All right, the first part of any self-introduction is, of course, the greeting. Jennifer, how would you greet someone in a formal setting?
Oh, good one. If I were in a formal setting, I'd say something like, hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. The trick is to match the formality of the setting. And remember, folks, good night is for saying goodbye, not for starting a conversation.
Great point. In a formal setting, it's all about setting the right tone with a polite greeting. Now, let's switch it up. What about informal settings, Jennifer? How would you greet someone casually?
For a casual setting, I'd keep it light. You could say, for example, hey, hi, or what's up. It's all about creating a relaxed and friendly vibe. Something like, hey, it's great to meet you, sets the tone just right.
Exactly. Picking the right greeting for the situation is key. If you're in a formal setting, you don't want to go too casual, and vice versa. It's all about making the other person feel comfortable.
Right, so that's our first component. Simple, but it sets the stage for the entire interaction. What do you think, Daniel? Are we ready to move on to the next part?
Absolutely. Now that we've nailed the greeting, let's move on to stating your name. So, Jennifer, how would you typically introduce yourself?
Well, if I'm in a casual setting or small group, I'd go with, I'm Jennifer. It's straightforward, easy to understand, and gets the job done. You can say, for example, Hi, I'm Jennifer. Nice to meet you. How about you, Daniel? Any other approaches?
If I were in a slightly more formal setting, I might say, my name is Daniel, or even, my name's Daniel. It adds a bit of formality, especially if you want to set a professional tone. For instance, good afternoon, my name is Daniel, and it's a pleasure to be here. It's all about the tone you want to create.
Absolutely. And there are also special situations where we might adjust how we introduce ourselves. If you're speaking to a large audience, you might say, This is Jennifer. It makes it clear who's speaking, especially if you're on stage. For example, Good evening, everyone. This is Jennifer, and I'll be guiding you through today's session.
Good point. And over the phone, you might say something like, Hi, this is Daniel speaking. It helps the person on the other end know exactly who they're talking to without any confusion. For instance, Hello, this is Daniel speaking. How can I assist you today?
Exactly. See, it's all about tailoring your introduction to the setting. Now that we've covered the greeting and your name, let's move on to another key part, stating your age. Simple, but important. Daniel, how would you handle that?
If I wanted to be straightforward, I'd say, I'm 35 years old, or just, I'm 35. It's direct, clear, and to the point.
Yep. And if you want to be a bit more general, you could say, I'm in my late 20s, or I'm in my mid-30s. It gives people an idea without being too specific, which is great if you're not into sharing exact numbers. For example, Hello, I'm Jennifer, and I'm in my late 20s.
Exactly. It gives you some flexibility, especially if you want to keep things a little mysterious, right? It's all about what you're comfortable with.
Now that we've covered age, let's move on to the next key part of your self-introduction, location. Daniel, what's the easiest way to introduce where you're from?
The simplest way? I'm from New York. It's quick, clear, and gives the basic info people are looking for.
Yep, straight to the point. And if you're in a more international setting, you might want to mention your nationality. You could say something like, I'm American. It's especially useful when you're talking to people from different countries, so they know where you're from.
Exactly. And if you want to add more of a personal touch, you could say something like, I come from a small town in Italy. That come from gives it a sense of your journey, like you're sharing a bit of your story.
Absolutely. It adds some character to your intro, right? It feels like you're giving people more than just a location. Another great one is, I was born and raised in Chicago. That highlights your strong connection to your hometown and shows people where your roots are.
And if you've lived in multiple places, you could say, I was born in London but raised in Toronto. It's perfect for showing that your life experience is split between two places.
Totally. And if you grew up in one place but live somewhere else now, you could say, for example, I grew up in Boston but now live in San Francisco. This way, you're giving people a sense of your journey, where you started, and where you are now.
Right. And if you're introducing yourself in a professional setting, you could say something like, I'm originally from Paris, but now based in Tokyo. It's great for showing where you come from and where your career has taken you.
Exactly. And if you want to add even more detail, you could say, for example, I've been living in New York for the past 5 years. That way, you're not only sharing your current location, but also giving people an idea of how long you've been there.
And if you've recently moved, you could say, I've spent the last 2 years in Berlin. That lets people know you've been there for a while, but you're not originally from there.
So as you can see, it's all about sharing just the right amount of detail for the situation. Sometimes you can keep it simple, and other times, diving deeper into your story can be more engaging.
Right. Now that we've got location covered, let's talk about your qualifications and education. Jennifer, what's an easy way to introduce your academic background?
Well, a simple way would be to say, for example, I'm a marketing graduate. It's short, clear, and perfect for casual introductions.
And if you want to add more specific details, especially in a professional setting, You could say, I have a Bachelor of Arts in Marketing. This gives a more formal touch, which is great if you're in a business or professional environment.
Exactly. And if you're still studying, you could say something like, I'm currently taking a course in digital marketing. It's a great way to show that you're still learning and developing your skills.
Yep, people love to hear that you're actively improving yourself. So remember, you can keep it short or add a bit more detail depending on the situation. Now, Jennifer, let's move on to professional information. How would you talk about your job and company?
Okay, here's a simple one. I work at XYZ Corporation in the marketing department. It's clear and gives both your company and department, which is perfect for formal settings.
Exactly. And if you want to keep it even shorter, you could say, for example, I work for XYZ Corporation. This works well if the company's name is well known, and there's no need to specify the department.
Totally. And if you want to focus more on your position, you could say, I'm a project manager at XYZ Corporation. This gives people a clear idea of both your job title and where you work.
And if you're talking about the field you work in, you could say something like, I work in sales. This keeps things broad, perfect for when you want to keep it general.
And if you want to highlight your specific role, you could say, I work as a deputy manager. It adds more detail to your introduction, especially if your job title is important in the conversation.
Once again, it's all about sharing the right amount of information based on the situation. You can either keep it general or dive deeper into your specific role, whatever feels right for you.
Exactly. Now, Daniel, let's talk about experience. How would you share how long you've been working in your field?
Easy. You could say, for example, I have 10 years of sales experience. It's clear, simple, and gets the message across about how experienced you are.
And if you want to phrase it differently, you could say something like, I've worked in sales for 10 years. This focuses more on the time you've spent in the field, which works great when you want to highlight your years of experience.
Exactly. And if you're talking about experience in another field, you could say, I've worked in accounting for 3 years. It's a simple way to share your background, and it's great when switching fields.
So it's all about tailoring the details to what's needed. You can give a broad idea or get more specific depending on what the situation calls for.
Right. Now, let's move on to something a bit more personal. Family. How would you introduce your family, Jennifer?
You could say, for example, I have a brother and a sister. It's an easy and simple way to introduce your family members.
Exactly. And if you want to talk about the size of your family, you could say something like, we are a family of 5. It's perfect when you want to share a little more without going into too much detail.
Right. And if you want to be specific about siblings, you could say, I'm one of 4 siblings. It highlights your position in the family.
And if you don't have siblings, you could say, I'm an only child. Simple and straightforward.
Okay, now we're down to the last part. Hobbies. How would you introduce your hobbies, Daniel?
You could say, for example, I really like playing tennis. It's a quick and easy way to share something you enjoy doing in your free time.
Exactly. And if you're passionate about your hobby, you could say something like, I'm a big fan of hiking. It shows that you really enjoy the activity.
And if you want to show dedication to a hobby, you could say, for example, I'm a keen runner. That gives a sense that you're really into it.
Once again, it's all about the level of detail you want to share based on the conversation. Keep it casual or dive deeper. It's your call.
All right, that wraps up our guide on crafting the perfect self-introduction. Now, let's talk about how you can practice and improve your introductions.
Yes, practicing is key to getting better. So, Daniel, what do you suggest our listeners do to practice their self-introductions?
Great question. First, I encourage all of you to write down your own self-introduction using the components we've discussed today. Then you can practice in front of a mirror or record yourself to see how you sound.
That's a fantastic idea. And once you've practiced, why not share your self-introduction with us? You can post it in the comments section below or reach out to us on our social media platforms. We'd love to give you feedback and support you as you improve.
Yes, we can't wait to help you continue your English learning journey. Remember, The more you practice, the more confident you'll become in introducing yourself in any situation.
That's right. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you found this episode helpful.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening, everyone. Keep working on your self-introductions, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Until next time, take care of yourselves, stay strong, and keep learning. We'll see you soon.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, your self-introduction is your chance to shine, so make it count.